Hey guys, today we're going to look at a question that many of you had some difficulty with in exercise 3.6, that is question 7. Let's have a quick look at it now. We've got to find the positive root of the equation 4 minus root 2 x squared minus 1 plus 2 root 2x minus 1 is equal to 0. Now the first thing to notice about this is that this equation is a quadratic, right? It's x squared, x, and a constant term. This is a quadratic. Now how do we find the roots of a quadratic? Well, we can factorize, but with something that's a bit more difficult, we use the quadratic formula. So let's just recap that. Imagine that we have got a standard quadratic, which we can write as ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, right? Where a, b, and c are just constant terms, coefficients, that could be any numbers. And if we've got those a, b, and c's, how can we use the quadratic formula? Well, x will equal to minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Right? So we just got to ask ourselves, in this particular example, what is a, b, and c? Well, this thing here is a, 4 minus root 2. This whole thing here is b, right? So minus 1 plus 2 root 2. We've got to remember the minus sign there. That's very important. And this thing here, the negative 1, is c. Okay? So we've now got our a, b, and c terms. We can just substitute these here into our quadratic formula. So x is equal to minus b. Well, that's going to be minus minus 1 plus 2 root 2. So we get 1 plus 2 root 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared. Well, that's going to be 1 plus 2 root 2 squared. And I can ignore the negative sign, right? Because if I square a negative, then I'm just going to get a positive. So I'll ignore that. Minus 4 times by a. So a here is 4 minus root 2. And c is negative 1. Okay. So we've got b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And 2a is 2 times by 4 minus root 2. Now that looks absolutely horrible, doesn't it? Really, really long, really difficult, lots of algebra there to do. But that's the basic setup to the problem. And everything else we've got to do is we just got to simplify that expression. So let's go on and do that. So you see here I've rewritten the expression out simply. Let's try to simplify this a bit more. So on the top, I'm still going to have 1 plus 2 root 2 plus or minus, well, now I've got to square that whole expression there, 1 plus 2 root 2. How do I square that? Well, I'm going to get 1. 1 times by 2 root 2 is 2 root 2. I'm going to have 2 root 2 times by 1, so that's another 2 root 2. And 2 root 2 squared, I'm going to have 2 squared times by 2, which is 8, right? Because 2 times by 2 is 4, root 2 times root 2 is 2, 4 times by 2 is 8. And then this one, right? Well, I can say I've got minus 1 times by minus 4, right? This thing here. So that's going to be positive 4, and then I can times positive 4 by 4 minus root 2. So I'm going to get plus 16 minus 4 root 2. Okay, so that's all the thing that's on the inside there. Let's then do the denominator. On the denominator, if I multiply out the bracket, I'm going to get 8 minus 2 root 2. Okay, so now hopefully I can simplify things a little bit. I'm still going to have here 1 plus 2 root 2 on the top, plus or minus. Now, how can I simplify what's on the inside here of this bracket? Well, you notice that I've got 2 root 2 plus 2 root 2 minus 4 root 2. Yeah, so that's actually all going to cancel out, right? That's going to equal 0 root 2. So that disappears. So then I'm left with 1 plus 8 plus 16. And what's 1 plus 8 plus 16? That is 25. So what I've got here is I've got 1 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 8 minus 2 root 2. Okay? And hopefully you should notice, if I just carry on over here, right? What is the square root of 25? Well, the square root of 25 is just 5, so I end up having 1 plus 2 root 2 plus or minus 5 over 8 minus 2 root 2. Okay, and so if I'm just paying attention to the positive root, right? So we're only interested in the positive root. Then we'll just deal with the case where we've got plus 5 and not minus 5. So in this particular case, we're going to say that x is equal to 1 plus 5, which is 6, plus 2 root 2, divided by 8 minus 2 root 2. And hopefully what you can see is that I can cancel. I can divide top and bottom by 2. So I'm going to get 3 plus root 2 divided by 4 minus root 2. So we're almost at our answer. All right. All we've got to do now is rationalize. So I'm going to take this thing and go to another page. Okay. So I am going to have x is equal to 3 plus root 2 divided by 4 minus root 2. Okay. And how do I rationalize that? Well, I've got to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the conjugate. In this case here, the conjugate is 4 plus root 2. 4 plus root. Okay. And so if I multiply out the top, I'm going to get 3 times 4, 12. 3 times root 2, which is 3 root 2. Root 2 times by 4, which is 4 root 2. Root 2 times by root 2, which is 2. Divided by 4 times by 4, which is 16. 4 root 2 and minus 4 root 2, which of course is 0. And then minus 2. So if I simplify this, I'm going to have 14 plus 7 root 2 divided by 14. And when I just divide top and bottom by 14, I will get 1 plus a half root 2, or root 2 upon 2. And that's my final answer. Okay, so the recap is a very, very difficult question, but at the essence of it, how you set it up is the most important thing. You've got to know that to find the roots of a quadratic, you use the quadratic formula, and you've got to be able to identify the terms a, b, and c correctly, right? This, and this here. Okay? Sub them into your quadratic formula and just do all the operations that you know. See if you can simplify. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I hope that that was helpful. That is a very difficult question. Congratulations to those of you who were able to do it. Send me feedback if this was helpful, and I will see you again next time.